Hey guys, how's it going? So, the video I did yesterday, that was just over an hour long, showing you how I come to the conclusions I come to, and the detail I go to, has actually gotten quite a positive amount of feedback. So, if that's the case, because I was doing my best to try to keep the video shorter, but you guys said y'all love that detail. So, I'm going to take a little more time to show you more of the things to explain better. What I'll do is I'll simplify the subject so I can add more detail to it to show you guys how I come up with some of these theories that I've come up with or interpretations that I've come up with. I'm going to do one now, and I've done this before, but I'm going to show you more detail into it. And when you go through the book of Revelations, you guys remember me talking about Revelation chapter 5, right? How this is the church standing in there around the throne. Because John is there, he says, in verse 11, then I looked and I heard the voice of many angels around the throne. Oh yeah, I've been playing with the e-sword. This is so much easier in my eyes. You guys let me know if you can see it okay. I heard the voice of many angels around the throne, the living creatures and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessings. I believe that same saying is used no, maybe it's 4. Yeah, here it is here. In Revelation 4:11, you are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they exist and were created. Now this is the 24 elders. In verse 10, you see that the 24 elders fall down before him who sits on the throne and worship him. What John is describing in chapter 4 is the throne room and what's around the throne. Then you jump to chapter 5. We're still in the throne room. He's still describing what he's seeing there. As you work your way through chapter 5, you come down here near the bottom. And you get to verse 11. Then I looked and I heard the voice of many angels. And here's what they're saying. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Oh wait, no. Up here, let me go to verse 8 instead. Now when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and a golden bowl of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song, saying, you are worthy to take the scroll and open its seals, for you were slain. Here's the key part. And have redeemed us to God by your blood out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation. This is important. Also, this one. And have made us kings and priests to our God, and we shall reign on the earth. This is important, because when you go back to chapter 1, you see in Revelation 1:5, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler over the kings of the earth, to him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and has made us kings and priests to his God and Father, to him be glory and dominion. Who's he talking about here? We're talking about the churches. The first 3 chapters are about the churches. This is the description given to the churches. Yep. So if that's the case, and we see the same description over here, what does that tell us? Well, that should tell you that that's the church standing in there in the throne room. Now, there's another bit of evidence, and I had a couple of people give me some grief about this, saying that these are angels in Revelation chapter 5. I was like, no, not really. Look at the details here. Then I looked, and I heard the voice of many angels. He heard the voice of angels. Not angels, just the voice of angels. Now, you can take that as, okay, that was just a bunch of angels around there. But why does it give such a specific number of angels? Very specific number of angels. I saw that and I thought, well, that's interesting, because you go read in Daniel 7, he talks about the same thing. Now, there's a key point to pay attention to here. Then I looked and I heard the voice of many angels. He heard the voice of angels. When you do a search, I heard the voice of many angels, you see it only brings up Revelation chapter 5:11. But if you're going to have the voice of an angel, that means in a way you're like an angel, right? Well, when you do like an angel, look what comes up. Matthew 22:30 and Mark 12:25. Matthew 22:30 says, "For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven." Then in Mark 12:25, "For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven." So when I found that, I thought, well, I need to go read that in context. Matthew 22:30. Matthew 22. Okay. So the Sadducees, here's the section we're going to read out of, because there's Matthew 22:30 right down there. The Sadducees are asking about the resurrection. The same day the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him and asked him. So if they're saying there is no resurrection, clearly we understand what he's talking about here, what this subject matter is going to be. It's talking about probably the rapture, probably the catching away. But let's keep reading and make sure. Saying, "Teacher, Moses said that if a man dies having no children, his brother will marry his wife and raise up offspring for his brother." Now we hear the story about all the different brothers and the one woman and all that kind of stuff, talking about culminating in this statement, "Therefore, in the resurrection." Now, when is the resurrection? Well, there are actually two resurrections. "Whose wife of the seven will she be? For they all had her." Jesus answered and said to them, "You are mistaken, not knowing the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven. But concerning the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? God is not the God of the dead, but the living." And when the multitudes heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. Is he talking about the resurrection at the very end? Or is he talking about the resurrection? Because that very end one is white throne judgment. Or is he talking about the resurrection that's coming? There's going to be a big resurrection for the rapture of the church. Is that the one he's talking about? Okay, so we got that. Now let's go to Mark 12:25. And so here's Mark 12:25. And this is going to be the same discussion. The Sadducees ask about the resurrection. Good night. Who's texting me already this morning? "Then some Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him and asked him, saying," so we know now this is the same story from Matthew. But you guys know as well as I do, when you read in the different letters, the different books, there's different details shared. Watch this. "Teacher, Moses wrote to us that if a man's brother dies and leaves his wife behind and leaves no children, his brother should take his wife and raise up offspring." Now they give you the scenario they're putting in before him for him to answer. Here's what he says. Here's what they ask. "Therefore, in the resurrection, when they rise, whose wife will she be? For all seven had her." Now here's what Jesus says. Jesus answered and said to them, "Are you not therefore mistaken, because you did not know the Scriptures, nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. But concerning the dead, that they rise, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the burning bush passage, how God spoke to them, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He's not the God of the dead, but of the living. You are therefore greatly mistaken." Who's the living? Those that died in Christ. Now we take that information and we go back to the book of Revelation. And we read again what he says in here. "Then I looked, and I heard the voice of many angels." Now here's another point to remember. He was looking, but he heard the voice. He didn't see who was standing there. Interesting little detail, isn't it? "Then I looked, and I heard the voice of many angels." He didn't say he saw angels around there. He just heard their voice. There's a reason why he wasn't allowed to see them. Because if he's allowed to see them, he probably would have told it in the book what he saw. "Around the throne, the living creatures and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands." I told you guys before, that's 100 million plus a few million. saying with a loud voice, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing." Now you jump back up to verse 8. Now when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and golden bowls of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. We know that the 24 elders are the representation, or the representatives of Israel. 12 are of Israel, and 12 are of the church. You go do a search. Whoops, already got it open. Whoa, nothing. Oh, that's because I didn't do it right. Still didn't find nothing. Come on, you're killing me. Wait. Go over here. King James. Let's try King James. See if it shows it. Nope, still doesn't. Because there's another description of the 24 elders in another, in the Old Testament. Okay, so there's Revelation 4. Book of Revelation. Alright, we don't want just... This guy here, he says it here. This actually proves another clue of the fact that 24 elders represent the church and not angels. Here we go, 1 Chronicles. Okay, so 1 Chronicles 24:1. Let's go to 1 Chronicles 24:1 and look at what it says. Oops. 1 Chronicles 24:1. Okay. Now these are the divisions of the sons of Aaron. The sons of Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. But Nadab and Elihu died before their father and had no children. Therefore Eleazar and Ithamar executed the priest's office. And David distributed to them both Zadok and the sons of Eleazar and Ahimelech and the sons of Ithamar, according to their offices in the service. So you're getting an understanding now of what their role is. Now watch how he breaks this down. And there were more chief men found of the sons of Eleazar than the sons of Ithamar, and thus they were divided. Among the sons of Eleazar there were 16 chief men, house of their fathers, going on. He's breaking it all down. One taken. So, thus were they divided by lot, one sort with another. For the governors of the sanctuary and governors of the house of God were of the sons of Eleazar and the sons of Ithamar. So now he goes down here and he breaks them all down. Here's all the different breakdowns of how he pieced them together. These were the orderings of them in their service to come into the house of the Lord according to their manner under Aaron their father, as the Lord God of Israel had commanded them. Are we not supposed to be kings and priests to him? Well, doesn't there have to be a governing factor over those priests? And over those kings? Israel's always had that. And when we go and we go into glory and get in on the day of redemption, we become part of that. So there has to be a governing sanction, governing factor involved here. When you read about how they brought it all together, it gives you an idea of what was going on in the book of Revelations, why there's 24 elders. Now let me find some more information. Okay, so come on, guys, give me scriptures. You're failing me here. There's so many people that have, so many people that fight against pre-trib rapture so badly. Like they don't want it to happen. I don't know. I can't understand that. Okay, there's First Chronicles again. I'm trying to find you guys some more. Okay, here's Hebrews 11. I actually didn't know about that one. All right, Hebrews 11. Which one was it? Those 24 elders justified in Hebrews 11. Okay. So I'm guessing this is painting the picture of who they are. So I didn't know they were mentioned in here. Let's see. Oh, he's listing all the different people here. Okay, so maybe this is a list of the elders. So commonly, if you read several commentaries, which there's a ton of commentaries on it, you get the impression that 12 of them are representatives of the tribes of Israel. The other 12 are the apostles. So anyway, going back to this. Let me go back to the... Okay, going back to this. So we see these 24 elders mentioned. And we go to Daniel 7, and we see the same group of people, the same 24 elders. So he's talking about the different critters, all the animals that are there. Okay, now, in Daniel 7:9, he says, I watched till thrones were put in place, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was a fiery flame. A fiery stream issued and came forth before him. 1,000 thousands ministered to him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated and the books were opened. This is another interesting clue. And you can see that the 24 elders, where do they fall in at down here? Okay. Where's it at? Okay, maybe it's not in that one. Okay, but another clue here. When you read right here, 1,000 thousands ministered to him, 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. Now you go back to Revelations chapter 5. I'm going to show you something cool here. So here's chapter 5. So he said, then I looked and I heard the voice of many angels around the throne, and he gives the number, same exact number around the throne, standing before God. There's more clues here. Because in Daniel, he talks about that 1,000 thousands ministered to him. Watch this. Okay, I think it's chapter 2, I think. Okay, so here, as he's doing the letters, he starts giving these little statements here. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will give some of the hidden manna to eat, and I will give him a white stone with a new name. Now, he talks about this in almost every letter. Watch this. And he who overcomes and keeps my works until the end, to him I will give power over the nations, being a king. He shall rule them with a rod of iron. They shall be dashed to pieces like the potter's vessels. And I did another video showing that as in reference to the church and how we're going to be playing a part of that. We will, actually, I think it was on somebody's comment. They were saying, that's only Jesus, that's not us. But actually, it does refer to us too. And I will give him the morning star. Now you go to 3. Revelation chapter 3, he who overcomes shall be clothed in white garments, and I will not blot out his name from the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before the angels. Go down a little further. He who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out no more. I will write on him the name of my God. Basically ministering to God. You start seeing this build-up. To him who overcomes, I will grant to sit with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne. What throne? Where is that contained? That's that at? Right here. The throne in heaven. So you see this progression, this buildup of description, and how each time he does a description, it's referring to the church. It's referring to those who overcome, those who are going to get taken and snatched up. Then you go into chapter 4, you see all this description of the 24 elders. Then you go to chapter 5, and lo and behold, here's that description. Almost all those descriptions laying right here, referring to a group of people that had the voice of angels. So anyway, that's how I start to build that stuff and start to put that stuff together. And there's even more. The deeper you dig, the more you find. Like whenever we did the search for like angels, and what do we find? Where'd it go? And in both cases, this is referring to the resurrection of the dead. This is referring to the people who are going to be called up and stand before the Lord. So when you start to put those little clues together like that, just like I did with Daniel 8 and everything that was going on there, I actually have a news story to share with you guys in the next video about that. Another nail in the coffin of who that is. When you start putting these little clues together in these descriptions of his chosen people, the church, you start to get a real sense of what's going on here in Revelation chapter 5. And you know what? Most people have not seen this in chapter 5. I've been checking with all different, you see I'm watching John Ankerberg, I've been checking with them, I've checked with all kinds of other people who are tops in their field, looking to see if they've seen this. None of them ever mentioned this in chapter 5. Yet here you see this group talking about what's going on. A very clear, definitive number with this group of people. This people with the voice of angels. And what's so funny is you can go right back to the book of Daniel and see the exact same description being given. Let's see. Said before him. Yeah, here it is right here. A fiery stream issued forth and came before him. 1,000 thousands ministered to him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. That's the only two places where that is present in the Bible. Only two places where that phrase is found. Daniel 7:10 and Revelation 5:11. So obviously they're linked. See, these kind of clues is how I find where some of this information is. And when I found that in chapter 5, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, that's the church. 10,000 times 10,000, 10,000 times 10,000. Only two places in the Bible where that pops up. So that becomes interesting when you see a specific number being mentioned there. Now you go down into the interpretation. What does it say in here? I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit within my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near to one of those who stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. Now he's giving you the answer. Those great beasts, which are four kings which arise out of the earth. There's people out there that think that's actual beasts, yet when you look in the Bible, you find out what the interpretation of that is. Now listen to this. But the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom even forever and ever. If the upper part in his vision wasn't talking about the church, because that's the church that's going to receive it. It wasn't talking about the church. Why is he giving this as a description of the interpretation down here? Well, because that is the church up there. In verse 10, that's the group of people. That's the saints. Then he starts talking about the beasts. See, Daniel didn't understand what that meant. He didn't understand what he was looking at there. It was ironic. He actually got to see him, but at that time he didn't know who that was. He didn't probably even know about anything involving a rapture or anything like that. So he could see them and it not mean nothing to him. What he was worried about was the beasts. You see, everything else is talking about the beasts, which is the Antichrist and the kingdoms and all that kind of stuff. But then when you go over here, you notice something completely different in Revelation chapter 5. John looks, but he doesn't see anything. Then I looked, and I heard the voice of many angels around the throne. He never says he saw them, he just heard them. He knew about the rapture. See, Daniel didn't, so he could see them. He knew about the rapture. John was looking for it in their time. So he couldn't see who those people were, because if he did, he'd have been like, wait a minute, that's the church. He probably would have put it in the book. God hid it from him, so he would just hear it. But these were clues for us to go in here and look and go, hey, wait a minute, look at that. And then you get this surprise, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's right there. Here's the church again. What do we find in Revelation chapter 12? Remember what we found? I haven't heard anybody talk about this. I can't find anyone that's talking about this. Right here in verse 5, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Do you remember what we found in that video? The word for child, the Greek word for child up here means son. Same thought, same sentence. The Greek word for child down here, at the bottom of it, in the second sentence, is sons and daughters. Two totally different words. This child up here is referring to Jesus. He's the head. This child down here is referring to the church. We're the body. And what happens? We get caught up. Now, you can say, well, that still refers to Jesus. We'll go back and look at when Jesus was taken up. In that video I showed you, it's a totally different word. Totally different. He was received into heaven, not caught up to heaven. Yet this child, in this second part of this statement here, is that the Greek word for caught up there is harpazo in this verse. So there's a rapture verse. You go do a search, look at all the areas where caught up. Caught up, caught up, caught up, caught up. Easy peasy. So anyway, guys, I wanted to, because that other video got such a positive response, you guys want the details. I'm going to start showing my work. I'm going to start showing you where I'm coming up with these things. And we're going to wander back and forth through the Bible and see what we find. But that's how it works. That's how I come up with these things. If we see two different words being used for child, one describing a specific son, one individual, another one describing as a general term sons and daughters. That's two different groups, isn't it? That's a clue. This one here, you go back when this one was taken up, the son, totally different Greek word used for when he was taken up versus this one, which is harpazo, which is the catching away. That's little clues like that. When you start to find those things, you really start to understand what's going on, and it really opens up the Bible. Same thing with Revelation chapter 5. And I just showed you guys how I discovered that. When you start to read this description given here, from verse 9 to verse 12, reading these descriptions, and then go look for those descriptions elsewhere in the Bible, and look at what they refer to, and it's like, whoa, wait a second, that's talking about the church. Come back here, wait a minute, that's the same description. Hold on. It's talking about the church. Church is in Revelation chapter 5. And I cannot find anybody that talks about this. I can't find anybody that's seeing this. Does that mean I'm wrong? No. I'm using the same tools they're using. I'm using the same type of searching that they're using and finding different information. So that's how I come to that stuff. And I just wanted to do this video to show you guys and to acknowledge that y'all had such a positive feedback on that video that I'm going to make it more of an effort to show more of my work to help you guys understand more and to see the path that we take to find these things. Because evidently it really was a revelation to a whole bunch of you guys. So that's cool. I'm going to do that. And because I love discovering things like this. And when you do, it's like, where'd that come from? Like the book of Revelations, it doesn't read in a straight line. It's not linear. You read a little ways, then you got to overlap part of it and start reading again. Then you got to overlap and start reading again. And what you're getting is you're getting all the details built into that little time frame. It's very interesting. I love eSword. eSword has really helped, and Open Bible have really helped. And even Bible Hub does too. Oh, those of you who can't get eSword, download the Bible Hub app. It's kind of similar to this. It has a lot of the features that this has. It just works differently. So anyway, guys, there it is. I mean, I can't come to any other conclusion, especially like what I discovered in Daniel 8. The harder I try to disprove it, the more I prove it. And in the next video I'm going to do right after this, I'm going to show you this other article. Somebody sent me this article. And it's amazing. It's amazing to see all these details unfold out of our everyday understanding and everyday tools that we have, clarifying things in the Bible. It's all Holy Spirit working. All right, guys, I love you all, and I will see you in the next video.